You thought the first list was brutal? Well, we're back, and these cameras are even worse. Overpriced, overhyped, and flat out embarrassing for 2025. If you watch part one, you already know the drill. But trust me, this round is going to sting even more. We're diving deeper into cameras that didn't just disappoint, they shocked the photography community with how far they missed the mark. You're watching Alt Buzz, and here are the top 10 worst cameras of 2025. Part 2. Cameras you should avoid at all costs. Hit subscribe for honest takes and raw breakdowns, not just the sugar-coated marketing spin. Let's get started. A vlogging camera with no viewfinder in 2025? You already know this is going to hurt. At number 10, Nikon Z30. In a world where entry-level mirrorless cameras need to shine for creators, the Nikon Z30 falls spectacularly flat with decisions that feel like they're from a different decade. Released as Nikon's budget vlogging option, this camera forces users to rely entirely on the rear screen for framing, which completely washes out in bright light. No electronic viewfinder means outdoor shooting becomes a guessing game, and without in-body stabilization, handheld footage looks shaky and amateurish. The autofocus is decent in good conditions, but starts lagging behind competitors like the Canon EOS R50 when the lights go down. What's particularly frustrating is that Nikon had the blueprint for success right in front of them. They knew vloggers needed reliable stabilization and viewfinder options for professional-looking content, yet they stripped away these essentials to hit a price point. Imagine buying this for vlogging outdoors, excited to create content in natural light, only to realize you can't even see the screen in sunlight. You're squinting, shielding the display with your hand, missing crucial moments because the camera can't adapt to basic shooting conditions. Meanwhile, your footage looks like it was shot during an earthquake because there's no stabilization to smooth out your movements. For the same money, you could grab a Canon EOS R50 and immediately notice the difference in build quality and features. The Z30 feels like a missed opportunity that could have hooked new users into Nikon's system, but instead pushed them toward the competition. A wasted chance, and a camera better left in the clearance bin. When a camera company restricts their own product to select markets, that's never a good sign. At number 9, Olympus Pen EP7. The Olympus Pen EP7 promised to be a stylish, compact Micro Four Thirds camera for street photographers who value discretion and portability. Instead, it became one of the most forgotten camera releases of recent years, and for good reason. With no electronic viewfinder and only minor cosmetic tweaks over older pen models, this felt like a recycled product rather than genuine innovation. The 20-megapixel sensor, while adequate on paper, shows its age when compared to modern full-frame rivals. Images lack the dynamic range and low-light performance that photographers expect in 2025. Colors feel muted, detail suffers in shadows, and the overall image quality feels like stepping back in time rather than moving forward. Video capabilities top out at 4K 30 frames per second, with noticeable rolling shutter that makes panning shots look wobbly and unprofessional. The build quality feels disappointingly plasticky for a camera positioned as a premium compact option. But perhaps most telling is how Olympus, now OM System, seemed unsure about the product themselves, restricting sales to select markets instead of a confident global launch. This should have been a cult favorite among street photographers who appreciate the Pen series heritage and compact form factor. Instead, it ended up forgotten in camera stores, overshadowed by more compelling options from Sony and Fujifilm. When even the manufacturer doesn't seem confident enough to give their camera a proper worldwide release that tells you everything you need to know about its prospects. Sony took their popular ZV-1 and somehow made it worse. Let me explain how. At number 8, Sony ZV-1F. Sony aimed the ZV-1F at vloggers with its ultra-wide fixed lens and creator-friendly marketing, but removing optical zoom and relying on a sluggish contrast autofocus system turned this into a frustrating one-trick pony. The fixed 20mm equivalent lens sounds great for wide shots until you realize you can't adjust your framing without physically moving closer or further from your subject. Low light performance becomes genuinely problematic above ISO 1600, with noise levels that make indoor shooting look grainy and unprofessional. The electronic stabilization attempts to compensate for the lack of optical stabilization, but it crops the frame so heavily that you lose much of that ultra-wide advantage when you actually need smooth footage. It's like buying a wide-angle camera that stops being wide-angle the moment you try to use it properly. Picture this scenario. You're a content creator trying to film indoors with moderate lighting. The autofocus hunts continuously, struggling to lock onto your face reliably. When you finally get it focused, the image is so noisy that you spend more time in post-production cleaning up the footage than actually creating content. Meanwhile, the electronic stabilization crops your shot so much that you're no longer getting the wide perspective you bought the camera for. Compared to the original ZV-1, this feels like a deliberate downgrade despite all the hype around creator-friendly features. At $500, it might seem budget-friendly, but when you factor in the creative limitations and workflow frustrations, you'll find yourself wanting to upgrade within months. In 2025, when versatile compact cameras are everywhere, this camera limits your creativity more than it enables it. If you're going to subscribe to our channel for more honest camera reviews like this, now would be a great time to hit that button. When your premium camera feels like an overpriced variant of your budget model, you've got problems. At number 7, Panasonic Lumix S5IIX. Panasonic's S5IIX was marketed as the ultimate video beast with ProRes recording capabilities and an all-black professional design, but it launched uncomfortably close to the significantly cheaper S5 II, making it feel redundant and overpriced from day one. The autofocus improvements are genuinely solid, representing real progress for Panasonic's traditionally weak tracking performance, but the camera is held back by fundamental limitations that no amount of marketing can overcome. Overheating becomes a genuine issue during extended 6K recording sessions, exactly when professionals need reliability most. The camera starts throttling performance and eventually shuts down, interrupting crucial shoots and damaging professional credibility. Meanwhile, the limited selection of native L-mount lenses at affordable prices means you're constantly adapting glass or spending significantly more than anticipated on your complete setup. Dynamic range performance is respectable in controlled conditions, but noise creeps in earlier than expected when pushing shadows or shooting in challenging light. For a camera positioned at $2,200, photographers and videographers expected more dramatic improvements over the base model, not incremental updates wrapped in premium packaging. The real frustration comes when you realize this full-frame hybrid ended up confusing buyers rather than converting them from other systems. Instead of creating a clear upgrade path, Panasonic muddied their own lineup with a product that feels like a cash grab rather than genuine innovation. When customers can't clearly understand why they should pay significantly more for marginal improvements, that's a fundamental product positioning failure that reflects poorly on the entire brand strategy. Fujifilm took a beloved camera and somehow made it less appealing. Here's how they managed that. At number 6, Fujifilm XS20. Fujifilm hyped the XS20 as a significant upgrade to the beloved XS10, promising better battery life and improved autofocus performance. Instead, they delivered a camera that feels like a step sideways with a $300 price increase that makes it significantly less appealing for the casual shooters who made the original model popular. The added weight might seem minor on paper, but it fundamentally changes the handling characteristics that made the XS10 so enjoyable to carry and use daily. The 26-megapixel sensor produces fine image quality, but burst shooting performance suffers from slow buffer clearing that interrupts the shooting flow when capturing action sequences. 6K video recording sounds impressive until the camera starts overheating after just 20 minutes of continuous use, making it unreliable for serious video work or extended shooting sessions. Film simulations remain one of Fujifilm's strongest selling points, delivering that distinctive look straight out of camera that many photographers love. However, the lack of weather sealing makes this camera vulnerable during outdoor shoots, exactly when you'd want to take advantage of those beautiful film simulation modes for landscape and street photography. By the way, we actually covered the rumors about the XS30, which will be the successor to this model, and the improvements Fujifilm might make to address these issues. But in 2025, when the XT50 offers more features and better value for similar money, the XS20 feels like a half step forward that prioritizes specification improvements over actual user experience. The pricing strategy pushes it uncomfortably close to higher-end models while removing the budget-friendly accessibility that made its predecessor so successful. Subscribe if you want to stay updated on our coverage of upcoming camera releases and industry rumors. But before we dive into the top 5 worst cameras, let me tell you about today's sponsor, Evoto AI. Some of these cameras may disappoint you, but your photos don't have to. Evoto AI is a powerful photo editing platform that uses advanced artificial intelligence to fix the problems your gear leaves behind. From dull colors and awkward lighting to skin retouching and batch processing, Evoto AI makes your shots look polished in just seconds. I've tested it myself in a dedicated review, and the results were genuinely impressive. Fast, natural, and professional. Whether you're a beginner who wants quick edits or a pro looking to save hours, Evoto AI is the smarter way to elevate your photography. Check the link in the description for an exclusive discount and start transforming your edits today. Now let's get back to our countdown of the absolute worst cameras of 2025. Surprised already? Stick around, because the next 5 cameras aren't just disappointing, they're shocking. And trust me, you'll want to see what lands at number 1. Comment below. Which of these cameras do you think is the biggest letdown so far? Canon's entry-level R50 seemed like the perfect beginner camera until you actually tried to use it. At number 5, Canon EOS R50. Canon's entry-level R50 appeared to be a steal for beginning photographers and content creators, featuring 4K video recording and the reliable dual-pixel autofocus system that Canon is known for. We actually reviewed this camera in detail on our channel, and while it shows promise on paper, real-world usage reveals frustrating limitations that push users toward expensive upgrades sooner than expected. Overheating becomes problematic after just 30 minutes of 4K recording, and the arbitrary 1-hour recording limit feels particularly outdated in an era of live streaming and extended content creation. These aren't theoretical limitations. They're workflow killers that interrupt important shoots and force creators to work around the camera's weaknesses rather than focusing on their creative vision. The plastic body construction lacks weather sealing entirely, making outdoor shooting risky and limiting the camera's versatility for travel and adventure content. The kit lens, while affordable, produces noticeably soft images at the edges that require careful composition to avoid unflattering results. Burst mode operates at an impressive 12 frames per second, but the small buffer fills up quickly, causing the camera to slow down dramatically during action sequences. At $800 with the kit lens, the R50 achieves an accessible price point that makes it attractive to newcomers. However, the combination of overheating issues, build quality compromises, and optical limitations creates a frustrating experience that encourages rapid gear acquisition syndrome. Instead of growing with users as their skills develop, this camera actively pushes them toward more expensive equipment within months of purchase, making it an expensive false economy rather than a genuine value proposition. At number 4, Kodak Pixpro FZ45. The Kodak Pixpro FZ45, promising to be the ultimate all-in-one solution for photographers who want extreme versatility without carrying multiple lenses. Unfortunately, the tiny 1/2.3-inch sensor produces consistently noisy, low-detail images even in optimal lighting conditions, making the zoom capabilities largely irrelevant when the image quality is fundamentally compromised. Video recording is limited to basic 1080p resolution with poor stabilization that makes telephoto footage unusable without a tripod. The plasticky build quality feels cheap and fragile, while the decision to use AA batteries in 2025 seems like a deliberate step backward when every other camera manufacturer has moved to rechargeable lithium solutions that provide better performance and environmental responsibility. Autofocus performance becomes genuinely problematic in anything less than bright daylight, hunting endlessly and frequently, missing focus entirely on stationary subjects. The low-resolution screen lacks touch functionality, forcing users to navigate through clunky button-based menus that feel like they're from a previous decade of camera design. For $100, the FZ45 achieves an undeniably low price point, but modern smartphones consistently outperform it in image quality, convenience, and user experience. This represents a relic that Kodak should have left in the past rather than attempting to resurrect outdated technology with modern marketing. Canon shooters, brace yourselves, this one's going to hurt. At number 3, Canon EOS R1. After years of anticipation and mounting hype as Canon's ultimate flagship camera, the EOS R1 finally arrived as what essentially amounts to a significantly upgraded R3 with 40 frames per second burst capabilities and improved autofocus tracking. However, the 24-megapixel sensor resolution feels genuinely inadequate for 2025, especially when positioned as a premium professional tool competing against higher resolution alternatives from Sony and Nikon. 8K video recording comes with a significant crop factor and persistent overheating issues that limit its practical usefulness during extended professional shoots. Dynamic range performance is strong in controlled lighting situations, but the aggressive noise reduction algorithms smear fine details in challenging conditions, creating images that lack the crisp quality professionals expect from a flagship camera. When this camera launched, photography forums lit up with frustration from longtime Canon users who had been waiting years for groundbreaking innovation. Instead of revolutionary technology that would justify the extensive development timeline, they received incremental evolution that feels more like a product refresh than a genuine flagship statement. Sports and wildlife photographers, who represent the primary target market for this camera, expected dramatically improved low-light performance and resolution that would give them a competitive advantage. At $6,500, the R1 carries flagship pricing that demands exceptional performance across every metric. Professional photographers investing at this level expected technology that would set new industry standards and provide compelling reasons to choose Canon over increasingly competitive alternatives. Instead, this camera feels like a conservative update that plays it safe rather than pushing boundaries, disappointing the very customers who waited most patiently for Canon's flagship response to Sony's dominance. Hit subscribe if you want more brutally honest takes on camera releases like this. Sony took their hybrid king and somehow made it feel like a cash grab. At number 2, Sony A1 Mark II. Sony's A1 Mark II promised to refresh the hybrid king with 50-megapixel resolution and hints at global shutter technology that would eliminate rolling shutter artifacts entirely. Instead, it delivered a disappointing update that maxes out at 8K 30 frames per second video recording without the 60 frames per second RAW capabilities that cheaper rivals like the Nikon Z30 offer as standard features. The autofocus system remains top tier in the industry, providing reliable subject tracking and eye detection that works consistently across different shooting scenarios. However, battery life drains dramatically during high-speed burst sequences, forcing professional photographers to carry multiple batteries and interrupt their shooting flow for frequent battery changes during critical moments. Sony's menu system continues to be convoluted and counterintuitive, requiring extensive customization and memorization to access frequently used settings efficiently. For a camera positioned at $6,500, the user experience should be seamless and intuitive, not an ongoing source of frustration that requires adaptation and workarounds. The most disappointing aspect is the lack of bold technological upgrades after the original A1's remarkable success in establishing Sony's hybrid camera leadership. Instead of building dramatically on that foundation with genuinely innovative features, this feels like a cash grab that relies on brand loyalty rather than compelling new capabilities. When Nikon and Canon are pushing boundaries with new sensor technologies and improved user interfaces, Sony's conservative approach with the A1 Mark II feels like resting on past achievements, rather than continuing to lead the industry forward. And finally, the single worst camera of 2025. Hyped beyond belief, but utterly broken in reality. At number 1, Yashica I'm Back MiMi. Yashica's MiMi attempted to blend nostalgic film aesthetics with modern digital mirrorless technology, promising to capture the charm of vintage photography while delivering contemporary convenience and image quality. The crowdfunding campaign generated significant enthusiasm among photography enthusiasts who were drawn to the retro styling and the promise of interchangeable lens compatibility at an accessible price point. Unfortunately, the tiny sensor and aggressively cost-cut construction deliver consistently soft, noisy images that are completely unacceptable for 2025 standards. The interchangeable lens system, marketed as a key selling point, proves to be little more than a gimmick with poor compatibility and loose tolerances that affect image sharpness and reliability. Without any form of image stabilization, handheld shooting results in blurry images unless you're working in perfect conditions with fast shutter speeds. Video recording is limited to basic 1080p resolution with laggy autofocus that makes it essentially unusable for any serious content creation. The crowdfunding hype led to significant shipping delays and quality control issues that left early adopters feeling deceived and frustrated with their purchase decisions. Build quality feels genuinely cheap, with plastic construction that creaks and flexes under normal handling. At $300, the MiMi positions itself as an affordable entry point into interchangeable lens photography, but it delivers such a poor user experience that it actively discourages people from pursuing photography further. This represents more than just a disappointing camera. It's proof that some brands should have stayed in history books rather than attempting to trade on nostalgic brand recognition without delivering modern performance or reliability. This list isn't just about bad cameras. It's about broken promises and what happens when companies stop listening to their users and start chasing quick profits instead of long-term innovation. From entry-level cameras that actively discourage beginners to flagship models that disappoint professionals, 2025 showed us that even established brands can lose their way when they prioritize marketing over engineering and pricing strategies over user experience. Did your most hated camera make the list? Or do you have an even worse pick in mind? Let me know down below. I read every comment, and your experiences help shape future content. Subscribe to Alt Buzz, drop a comment, send a super thanks, and consider joining the channel membership for more raw, no-nonsense tech content that cuts through the marketing spin to give you the truth about what's actually worth your money.